Pinecrest High School Athletics on moresportsradio.com. Live from the Aberdeen Exterminating Mobile Studio, this is Inside Pinecrest Football with head coach Nick Eddins. And your host from moresportsradio.com and Star 102.5, the voice of the Pinecrest Patriots, Mike Martin.
Good afternoon and welcome to Inside Pinecrest Football. We're with Coach Nick Eddins. Coach, an open week with the Patriots. You had time to take a look at the preseason, first 4 games, see how things were, maybe heal up a little bit of injuries, and how important is it having that open week early in the season?
Yeah, I like to have it after 3 or 4 games. I think that's in between the conference and the non-conference situation. I feel like you can exactly like you said, you get a chance to heal up a little bit. You get a chance to fix. You got a whole week to fix things that you've been needing to work on a little bit more in detail, and then try out a few new things. So I think you can win the bye week. You can lose the bye week. We certainly won the bye week. I thought we got better and we cleaned up some things last week during that time.
Coach, as you look back and see those 4 games, you had another week of separation. You had a chance to look at, I'm sure, a whole lot of film. We talked about the Grimsley game last week, how important it was growing from that. How did that help you this week in prepping as you went back, or how much time do you spend looking back at the previous 4 games?
Well, we kind of look, we looked at Grimsley more than anything, being the last game, and some of the things that we can clean up. I feel like we fixed those things. You gotta spend a lot of time on that. And once we get past like Roseville, and we don't look back that far because we've grown as a team since then and not making the same mistakes that we were then. So, we started tuning up those things and not really focusing on Richmond that much last week, just focusing on us and getting us better and fixing those mistakes from the previous week. That was the big key and spark for us last week.
What's been the biggest shock for you this year in terms of things that you maybe weren't expecting offensively that you thought maybe we were going to have to work a little bit more in this area that have kind of surprised you?
Well, I think the kids have done a real good job, picking up our offense very quickly. Last couple situations where I've been, it's took a little longer, and like I said earlier, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Mike. I think the offensive line is the key there. There's a lot of experience in that group. They were able to handle a lot of things, and Coach Lee, Tucker Lee's done a tremendous job with those guys, much better than me. I've coached offensive line before, and I don't know that I could have had them as far along. So I think our offensive line's been a big surprise to me. I doubt it's a surprise to anybody here because you guys knew what you had, with me coming in, just understanding that. And I think that's helped. Our running game has helped our quarterback come along with our offensive line being as good as they are and being able to protect and run the schemes that we want to run. So, that's really been the biggest surprise for me, how far we've been able to get offensively. Now, we're not a well-oiled machine, I can promise you that just yet. We're still working towards that, but we're getting better and better every day.
Coach, looking at the numbers, but offensively rushing yards, you've almost clipped 1,000 yards through 4 games, a couple of really big nights there for Nigeria.
Right. Well, we're not going to make it any secret that we want to run the football. We want to run the football and control the clock and establish our will on in the trenches. So, that's what we want to do. We want to open up the passing game. We want to throw the ball when we want to throw the ball, not when we have to throw the ball. So, that's kind of where we are with that. And, we've had some success rushing the football. And, again, that goes, Nigeria's been great. Brandon's been great, but if it wasn't for those 5 guys up front, none of that stuff would happen. So again, that's where we're much more advanced than some of my teams at my previous stops are at this point in time, 4 games into the season of my first year being here.
Looking at it defensively, you guys have done a good job of limiting opponents the run game, which again, we talk about it opens up, but it also shuts things down and makes teams one-dimensional. But boy, I tell you what, all 3 levels, your D-line, your linebackers, and your special teams really have played some pretty solid football through 4 games.
Right, just like you can say the same thing defensively as you do offensive. We're not a well-oiled machine yet. We played really well at times. The Middle Creek game, you look back and we really took their run game away from them. So they were one-dimensional, and until we gave up 2 late touchdowns to them, it's 40-something to 10 or whatever it was. So, we really dominated that. Defense played really well, taking that run game away. And, second half of the Grimsley game, same thing, kind of came up, and they were really running the football well in the first half. We did a good job job, our linebackers and defensive line controlling the line of scrimmage in the second half. So, we've played really good in spots and showed people what we can be. We're just going to continue to work so we can do that for 4 quarters every Friday night.
And then, of course, the special teams. A lot of questions going into special teams this year. Through 4 games, are you where you want to be?
We're getting close. We're still working on our kicking game as far as the field goals and the extra points. Will's a linebacker that kicks. He's not a kid that's a kicker that goes to all these camps and whatnot that a lot of these kickers do. So, Will's getting better and better each time he goes out there in that practice, and he's able to spend a little bit more time kicking, the better he gets. So, he's doing good there. And Jacob Renfrey's done a good job punting the football. He's done a really good job. We've got 2 really good punters. We hadn't showed our other one yet. He's a lacrosse player that came out, Gavin Layton. He's got a really big leg, never really kicked before, but came out there and started kicking the ball around. We twisted his arm, got him on the team. So, he'll be a secret weapon we might bring out later. He can really boom it too, just kind of getting his steps and timing down. You don't want to throw a kid in there to get blocked because he takes too long. So he's getting better and better each week too. So I've been pleased with the progression we've made. We still got not a well-oiled machine yet there either. We've still got to continue to get better. And, we've created some turnovers on special teams where we've popped the ball up or squibbed it and they've not been able to handle it. So you gain extra possessions. I know a lot of people don't like the pop-up kick. They want you to kick it in the end zone. And believe me, I would. If we were able to do that all the time, I would do it all the time. But, we've been able, I think, against Anson, we recovered 1. Against Middle Creek, we recovered 1. So you gain in extra possessions because the other team maybe not prepared for exactly what you're doing. And we're getting better at those things too.
Well, Coach, also on the special teams, the returns, you've had a lot of growth in that since week 1, and really positive field position in the last couple of games with opportunities with some of these short kicks and finding some success finding holes.
We did a good job kickoff return in the last game. Zamir Spencer set us up around midfield 2 or 3 times, which is great field position after a touchdown. So we'll take that every day of the week. So we have gotten better in our return game. Our kids are buying into it a little bit more. I think special teams are very important. They're 1/3 of the game, and if you win that part, then you just got to win, a little bit of them other 2, and you got a W. So that's where we are. But we take a lot of pride in special teams. We spend a lot of time on it every day.
Coach, that's taking us to our first commercial break, so we're going to come back. I know we got a couple of the teammates here tonight. I can't wait to talk to them from the best parts of the show when you get the kids involved and talk about life through their eyes. So we'll do that coming up here on 2 minutes on the Inside Pinecrest Football with Coach Nick Eddins. I'm Mike Martin. We'll be right back.
Covering Pinecrest athletics and the Sand Hills area sports scene. You're listening to moresportsradio.com.
Welcome back to Inside Pinecrest Football. We're with Coach Nick Eddins. Big game this week. Pinecrest Richmond Senior Friday night, Coach. All the work starts so far before August 1 ever comes. I know in your first season, February, I think it was, when you actually got to town here, I think that's when then the hard stuff happened. How tough was it getting the kids here and into the weight room and doing all those extra things necessary to build a program?
Honestly, it wasn't very tough at all. The kids, I got here in late January and stayed in the hotel for a couple of weeks, and, while my family was getting ready to move and whatnot. And but the kids, they were fired up. They were in 4th period. There was about 70 of them. And, Lord, I kind of just pointed them in the right direction. These kids here are used to working. They're not, wasn't a whole rebuild everything. Coach Curtin, Coach Metzger obviously had everything going in the right direction. So I kind of come in and just put my spin on it, and the kids got right to work. And, it was a little bit of an adjustment, but nothing like my previous stops, to be honest with you. Nothing like that.
Well, you again, the first guest we're going to have tonight, and that weight room work and that all season, it's critical on the line. Those guys have to have things ready. You're not going to build that strength up overnight. It's going to take some time and that endurance, and it's critical on the offensive line.
Right. You got to put time in. And it was pretty obvious when I got here. The guys we got here tonight, have done that throughout and were willing to do that and weren't scared of the work or any of that kind of stuff. And, just glad to have these guys in our program. They're leaders in our program, in the weight room, in the classroom, and everywhere else in between.
I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce the first player tonight. And this is great. I'm looking forward to this.
We've got number 51, our left guard. I'm sorry, number 50. 51 is Ryland. Sorry. So number 50, Dominic Bialer. I hope I said that right. I struggle with that sometimes, being from Anson County and whatnot, but glad to have him here. He plays my position. I played left guard when I was in high school and college, so I have an affection for the left guard. I'll just be honest with you, but he's one of our leaders on the offensive line and on the offensive side of the football.
Well, being a left guard, a lot of folks don't understand the roles of the different linemen. Some casual football fans who are listening in right now might not know that the left guard is just immediately to the left of the center who starts the ball, snaps it to the quarterback. But that is a critical role on the line. And tell us why that is. What's so important about that guard position?
What's most important about the guard position, there's a lot of running, pulling involved, and picking up linebackers is most important. If we didn't pick up the linebackers on the guard position, there would be no holes to run through or anything like that.
So in addition to remember that snap count, you got to know where the play is going, and then you got to look and see who's where and adjust accordingly. Now, you had a tough draw. You had a really, really tough draw in the last game against Grimsley. You had the kid that signed with Georgia. I think he was like, 6'5", 455 pounds. I'm being facetious, but a really big kid. He was, I think, 6'3", 6'4", 355, just a beast. And you had your work cut out. I mean, it was a tough night guarding a D1 recruit like that. What was it like?
It was tough. He had way longer arms than I did, and he was just a big old tank, just steamrolling. But I held my ground, just trying to not let him get in the backfield at all, and I held him where he was and tried to.
Well, we talk about the strength training. How did that play into that game? I played back when the dinosaurs were here, but it was always you get lower and just kind of make it hard for him, make him work, go to the outside of you or whatnot. But is it arm strength? Is it leg strength? Is it both core?
I would say it's leg strength and mostly core. Just trying to hold him down. You got to stay low. Just keep him locked and don't let him get around you.
You said pulling. Now, for a lot of folks who are just listening and don't understand, that means you're going to leave the line of scrimmage and you're going to either go left or right, mostly right, I'm assuming, and the running back is going to fall in behind you, and you've got to make a hole for him.
Sir.
And what's that like?
It's fun because the linebackers really don't see me that much, and there's a lot of kickouts, and I'm kind of like a blind in their blind spot, so it's really good to just pop them right in the side and do all that. But it's nice. It's fun.
Well, for somebody who's never been down in the trenches, as we like to call it, it's physical. It's a physical game. You hit, you stop, you get to come back, but it is a lot of work during 4 quarters of football.
It is a lot of work. It's really tough. I'm a little smaller than most of these linemen we got out here, so I just got to put way more effort than they do. Just keep working in the weight room, push them around, try to get moved.
Now, when Nigeria gets one of the big runs, or you get to the touchdown, does he come back and show the love to the lineman for making it all happen?
Yes, sir, he does. He comes back, and we do a little celebration. He runs back, and he jumps up, I pick him up. So he does show a lot of love to the lineman, and he appreciates all of them.
Hey, Coach, when you talk about in teaching these guys, it's you have to have a passion, because they're not going to get the glory. They're not going to get their name said a whole lot. And usually when it is, it's they've either done a false start or they've gotten called for a holding, which, again, everybody's, throwing their arms up in the air on a great play or whatever. But what they do is so integral to getting the offense moving.
Oh, you're exactly right. It's where the game's played, and where the game's won or lost is in the trenches between the offensive line and the defensive line. They don't get any credit. I wouldn't say they don't get a lot of credit. They don't get any. But they'll get all the blame, because first time somebody gets hit in the backfield or the quarterback gets sacked, the casual fan's going to go, come on, line, block. And it might have been the running back that missed a pass protection assignment. It might have been, we might have been reading a guy, and that guy was unblocked, and we just didn't read it correctly, and that had nothing to do with the offensive line. But, the casual fan doesn't know that, so that's okay, and the linemen get yelled at. But and I say we, because I was a lineman too, so we're thick-skinned, and we can take it. We can, those skilled guys, they might kind of just fall apart on you, but linemen thick-skinned, tough, and been raised the right way and working hard, so they're used to that kind of stuff, and they'll just move on, because most of those guys are pleasers. They want to please you and make you happy and Dom's exactly like that, and does a great job every day.
And Dominic, I certainly do appreciate you joining us here on Inside Pinecrest Football and giving that experience from the interior line perspective. But, Coach, I'm going to have you go ahead and introduce our next guest. We're going to switch on the other side of the line to the defensive side.
Right here, we've got our nose guard, John Luke Taylor, who's number 90. He's our nose guard, and just another guy that doesn't get a whole lot of credit, but works his butt off in the weight room, in the classroom, in the community. Really involved, in different things. Is always there, when I ask for something, he'd help with some cleanup and different things like that. But works his butt off at practice every day, and I noticed that. So, glad to have him on our football team, and he's an integral part of our defense.
Well, John Luke, welcome to Inside Pinecrest Football, and glad to finally meet you. And I will tell you this story real quick because the first time I remember calling your name this season, there was a play that you came off the field. It was a very late substitution. But I've never seen a defensive lineman move faster on a dead sprint to the sideline, and then you did it again, and you did it again. It seemed like every time you go off the field, it is like it's hair on fire kind of moment for you. It is you get off the field. Is that something you've always done?
I mean, overall, yeah, because, obviously you don't want to get a penalty because you're substituting guys, 12 men on the field. But, it's just you got to have that overall energy, whether it's running onto the field, running off of it, getting the right call. It's just an attitude. It's just built into your personality. And from a young age, I've always had that kind of, hair on fire, trying to get on and off the field and getting the best opportunity I can.
Again, we're talking with John Luke Taylor. Hey, we've come up on our second commercial break, so we're going to come back in 2 minutes. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Pinecrest defense, the defensive line, and then we're going to look ahead to Friday's game here in Southern Pines against Richmond Senior. I'm here in the lock in the back gate. We're going to ask about that one more time here on Inside Pinecrest Football with Coach Nick Eddins. I'm Mike Martin. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Pinecrest High School Athletics on moresportsradio.com.
Welcome back to Inside Pinecrest Football. We're with Coach Nick Eddins. Also with us tonight, we've got the starting nose guard for the Patriots, John Luke Taylor, a senior, number 90. He's one of the we like to call them the hog bodies, and he gets to line up right across from the center and disrupt as much as he can up front. And that's a tough job too. I mean, you've got to be quick, strong, fast, and make some stops.
Yeah, you got to be all those things to be an effective nose guard.
And what are you thinking when the other team breaks the huddle? They come to the line of scrimmage. What's going through your mind?
Well, obviously, I'm trying to just pick up anything, whether if a lineman's set back if it's going to be a pulling play, getting a call from the linebackers if it's if we have a cadence for a screen or if it's a pass, just getting a move worked in my head on which gap I'm trying to get in, and just doing the best trying to get in my head what I can do to do my job to the best of my ability.
Now, a lot of times you'll see the guy get in 2-point stance. They still doing a 3-point stance. Do you ever still watch the knuckles and see if they're bending them backwards to see if they're leaning forward or not to know if the run's coming? Or
no, I just look at their feet because if they're set behind the line, there's me not knowing the adrenaline's pumping. I can't really tell that, but I rely a lot on the linebackers and rely a lot on their stance and how they're getting down and how quick they're getting down, if it's fast, if it's slow, if it's getting ready to be a pass, or, if just reading it the best I can.
One of the advantages the offense line has, they know the snap count, and you don't. And how hard is it to listen to that cadence and not make that jump and encroach?
Oh, it's very difficult. In the first game against Roseville, I had a couple offsides. But as the season has gone on, especially against Anson and Middle Creek, I've held back. I've, tried to keep that in check and, trying not to hurt the team. Because those penalties do add up over time and over the course of a game.
Big opportunity this week for Pinecrest. Richmond Raiders coming into town. It's going to be a tough one. It's always a dogfight, and especially in recent years, things have been a lot closer, and the heavyweights are going to be battling Friday night in Southern Pines. And as a player, what does it mean for you to know it's Richmond week?
Well, I came my sophomore year to Pinecrest, and I didn't really know about the rivalry, but my first JV game was against Richmond. And, talking with the dudes, learning from the upperclassmen, it's Richmond, and they're the biggest rival we got. So knowing that they're coming here, it's, first conference game. It's going to be at home at our home field, and that gives us maybe a minor advantage, but overall they're going to come in. It's going to be a dogfight, and can't wait for that.
Coach Nick Eddins, Richmond senior. I mean, you've seen it on both sides. I mean, what's it going to be Friday night? What are we going to see from the Raiders, and what's it going to take for Pinecrest to notch a win? I mean, there have been few and far between. I think Pinecrest is, 3-42 all-time against the Raiders. So win number 4, what's it going to take?
Well, they say, I've heard a famous saying, to beat a man, you got to beat the man. And, in this conference for a long, long time, Richmond County has been the man, if you will. So, I think we got the ingredients to get that thing done. I think it's time for us to get that done, for the 4th time. And our kids are going to come out and they're going to play hard. We're going to be really well prepared. And, it's going to come down to execution like John Luke talked about. The penalties that happen before the snap, hopefully they have more than we do. Hopefully we're disciplined enough and we take care of the football. That's the big thing. Got to take care of the football. We've done, knock on wood, we've done a pretty good job of that this year, and then creating turnovers by running to the football on defense. Run to the football and get a lot of hats there and put a hat on the football, and now they fumbled or whatnot. So, and then win the special teams battle. We talked about that earlier. That's a third of the game. We spend a lot of time on it, and I know they do too. I know a lot of those guys over there. So, we want to be able to get some good return yardage, force some situations when they've got to kick the ball to put a little bit of pressure on them. But those are the things that I think are key. It's always going to come down to blocking, tackling, and turnovers, and who's got the least amount of penalties. So, that's kind of where we are.
Personnel-wise, what are the Raiders going to bring?
They bring a senior quarterback that runs it well, throws it well. They got a tough running back, number 1. I mean, he's run tough all year long, inside, outside. He can do a little bit of all. Got a pretty big offensive line, especially their tackles. They're good size. A couple good players there, and some tall, long receivers. They integrate into the game plan that catch the ball pretty decent. They're on the defensive side of the ball. They play a 3-3 stack. And they run around really well. Got pretty good size on the defensive line. Their linebackers are really active. And then their DBs, typical Richmond DBs. Some of them are short, real short. Some of them are tall, and you got to go integrate a little mix there, but they can all run. And they cover really well. So, we're going to have to get on them and block them and create some things offensively and defensively. Like I said, just run to the football. They're bringing a good football team to town, and, we got a good football team too, so it ought to be a heck of a ball game.
Been a rough start for the Raiders so far. They've put 2 wins together, but they've had a brutal preseason schedule. But are you able to gauge where they are?
Yeah, I think, they started off 0-3. They played 3 really good football teams to start the season, and they've kind of changed a little bit from some of the stuff we saw early in the year. Offensively, they've kind of simplified. Defensively, they have to kind of, cut some things out to get better at these things, not try to run all these things. So they've done a lot of that, and they've kind of settled into what they are the last 2 games. And I think we're the same way. We've done the same thing. We've had a tough non-conference schedule also, and kind of settled into, what we feel like what we're good at and what we're not good at. We've kind of tossed it to the side, to continue to try to get better at what we are good at. So they, I feel like kind of somewhat mirror images of each other as far as tough non-conference schedule, kind of finding your identity early in the year of what you are and focusing on those things.
Well, again, Pinecrest Friday night, game time in conference. We're going to kick off at 7:30. Our show starts at 7 o'clock. Coach Nick Eddins, we certainly do appreciate you, and of course, you appreciate you bring John Luke Taylor and also Dominic Bialer to the show. And good luck Friday night. I know the gates are going to get locked, and I got a feeling it's going to be standing room only, Coach. It's going to be a big night for Pinecrest football.
Yeah, I hope everybody comes out and cheers these boys on. They deserve it. And I couldn't find the lock for the gate the other day. Somebody threw it over in the bushes, but I found it. And we'll get it over there, and we'll get everybody in, and everybody have a good time.
This is what high school football is all about. When communities come together for big games like this, Richmond, Pinecrest, it just doesn't get much bigger than that. So come out Friday night. If you can't make it, of course, you can hear the game live on moresportsradio.com, Star 102.5. Good night, everybody.
Inside Pinecrest Football is brought to you by Aberdeen Exterminating. Be sure to follow the Pinecrest Patriots every Friday night this fall live on moresportsradio.com and Star 102.5. Like us at facebook.com/moresportsradio or follow us at twitter.com/moresportradio. If it's